What's up, everybody? It's Thursday, 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast in the United States. I'm gonna go live for a little bit. Lots to talk about, so I wanted to make sure that we understand where exactly the crypto market is, what we're up to, and where we're headed. Okay, so lots to talk about. Let me sort of post these links in my community here. Let's do at everyone. I want to just grab this and post this in my other channels too. Let me know what parts of the world you guys are from, and I wanted to understand, what the best times for me would be to go live. Because I try to go at opportune times that's best for everyone. So one of my members is messaging me and asking why I don't show my face often. So I figured today I would. I don't try to hide myself on YouTube or anything. I'm not afraid of that. I know what I know. I've been doing this for a while, and I'm not afraid to talk about my experience in the stock market and the equity markets and the commodities markets, trading options, long, short directionals, E-mini futures. So let's have a good, productive conversation. All right. I'm gonna go through it in a little bit. Let me just put this stuff up, and then I can. So right off the bat, I did want to talk about my community. This is my Cryptosomniac community. We have pretty active members. A lot of discussion happening usually. People from all over the world, people from all different ages and walks of life, whether they're veterans in the crypto space and have been investing for a few years, or they're new and novices where they don't really quite understand exactly where to invest, what to invest in, etc. Right? So let me make sure that everyone can see that I'm live. All right, there we go. Okay, so I got a bunch of people watching. What's up, Jay Natty? What's up, John Clay? What's up, Ryan Jack? Bill, Icon? Thank you guys for joining. Yeah, I know. Hey, a face. I know, man. It's been a while. So not clean shaven today, so I figured I'd give you guys my scruff. All right, there's a lot to talk through. So let me sort of go through it piece by piece, one thing at a time. And if you feel like you're getting lost, let me know and I'll explain it. Okay. So first things first, I wanted to talk about this chart right here. Okay, I discussed this many times because I've compared BTC to many alts. Okay, and you can do this actually right here. If you go to coinmetrics.io, okay. You can go to community data right here, network data, and then correlation charts. Okay, I've gone through this website. I've gone through every single chart. I've held their subscription. I access as much data as I can from different sources to be able to inform myself and then ultimately inform our community users, right? Because more information, the better. So the point is, when I accessed this sort of data, one thing I realized is BCH, LTC, and Ethereum, not only by market cap but by correlation, are probably the most similar to BTC's movements and have been for quite a while. So it only makes sense that if BTC moves up nicely, you probably figure that LTC and BCH and Ethereum would move up fairly nicely with it. Okay. Unfortunately, what sort of happened is something like this, where, you know, blue being BTC right there has sort of taken off to the upside, and it's left all these alts, not only Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash, but the rest of the alt space behind. Okay, and I'll explain sort of why that's happened, or at least the way I think it's happened and why I think it's happened. But for now, what we need to do is we need to realize that this has happened, and if this mode is going to, you know, shift where the alts at some point are going to get a breather and they're going to get to move, and when is that going to happen? So for now, we have to assume that Bitcoin is just going to keep on moving, and temporarily alts are going to be stalled a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, so on the 1 hour chart, right, this morning, if you're part of my Advantage program, I put out a video explaining, you know, this was like earlier in the day, so about, you know, 10, 12, 15 hours ago or so, actually. I explained that around here, this is where we started seeing a bit of a topping off right here, and I would expect this area right here to be used as support. If anything, go a little bit deeper and then come back up. Okay, and that's exactly what we did, guys. This is why I explain to people that, you know, it's not that technicals don't work, it's just that most people just don't know how to use them. That's the sad part about this space. And, you know, if you do know how to use them, can you be consistent with them, and are you going to get annoyed if they don't work out? Right? Because technicals aren't, you know, your crystal ball sure thing. They're just probabilities. That's all they really are. And if you hedge your bets properly and you have proper risk management strategies in place for your alts or your trades, you'll have some winners and you'll have some losers, but your winners are going to be bigger than your losers, and your losers are going to be far and few. That's just basic risk management. Okay. All right, so let's get to it. Once we realized that this was formed right here as a nice support, for the most part, we were going to definitely create higher highs, and that's exactly what we did. We just kept moving on up, right? So now we're kind of in this space where I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that, you know, this was really the big resistance. Let me go to this chart right here. This is a little bit better. This was really the big resistance in the way over here in the middle of April. The only sort of resistance, the supply, order block, whatever you want to call it, this was really the only thing in the way before prices kept moving on up. And we can even turn on the volume profile to explain this. All right, so here's that volume profile. And this has sort of shifted a little bit because now this range has, you know, turned into support. But for the most part, the VPVR was actually showing you that, you know, this was really the big range where there was a lot of resistance. All right. So now that that's sort of chewed up by the bulls, now you can see there's really nothing in the way right here until this area, this high volume node right here that we're coming into. And that falls anywhere between, you know, 6,300 and about 6,500. And probably, you know, sort of this toppy area right here. This is usually a you know, probably a high valued area where there's going to be a decent amount of sellers just waiting, because this all comes in from this choppy zone right here. Okay. Now that starts at anywhere between 6,100, which we've already entered, as you can see, price right there, and it goes all the way to about 6,750. Let's just say 6,800. Okay, so that $700 block right there is where we're going to be seeing, you know, a lot of battling between the bulls and the bears. Okay, so that's something to keep an eye on. All right, and so this is where I would say that things are going to get really overextended to the upside and are really going to get toppy right here. Price is also going to be exhausted at this point, you know, climbing so much, right? It's not just about, you know, the indicators like the RSI, which, you know, again, it has been overbought for a little while, and you know, it's been giving your bearish divergence signals. Here, let me change this to a different color. Let me get to this and make this black. I hope the audio and video is good, guys. Let me just check up on y'all real quick. Amo, you are Cryptosomniac. Not seen Snay or Jason in a very long time. I know, man. They're busy. They're doing their own thing, and I respect that. Ryan Jack, what's up, man? John H, what's up? Oh, my voice is very low. Is everyone able to hear my voice properly, or is it just a few people? I want to make sure everyone can hear me properly. What's up, Matthew? Okay, so the point is, you know, we're going to look like we're going to be toppy in this sort of area. So I'm going to draw this out right here, okay? And I sort of mocked this up before, but I'm going to do it one more time. And you can see we've already entered that big supply box right there. And surprisingly, you know, I'm actually really surprised at the resilience of the bulls from the Bitcoin side, that we haven't just sort of, you know, dumped off right away. We're actually looking pretty resilient and to want to keep on climbing higher. Once we broke out of this parallel channel right here, or a bull flag, however you want to look at it, this is your strength right here, your up thrust from the bulls, making a bold statement, okay? And that statement is that, hey, we're not going to stop, at least not yet, until we reach X price, you know. And I don't really know what X price is going to be, because personally, you know, once it starts getting to 6,400, 6,500, that's where you're going to start encountering a lot of resistance. And once you break through that, 6,800 is the last block, really. And then I think from there, guys, I mean, you know, other than like 8,500 or 10,000, those are really your biggest levels. And that's pretty much it. You know, you've pretty much sort of surpassed some of the biggest resistance levels. So I don't quite see, you know, anything in the way once we get past, you know, sort of that 6,500, 7,000 area. The biggest block, as you can see, the high volume node is right there. Everything else here kind of like dwindles, you know, as prices move on up, right? There's a big cluster right here. You know, this kind of lands around like 8,000. That's why I stated that, you know, 8,000-ish could be a little tough too, but not as tough as this area right here, okay? Just something to keep in mind. All right, this chart right here resembles something else too, which is that I'm seeing sort of a rounded, you know, parabolic-like movement in BTC right now. I just drew this curve just to see if price is going to follow this pattern. Usually parabolic curves are like this, and eventually they sort of get steeper and steeper. They'll just go straight up usually. Like we did in the 2017 bull market right here, right? You just went straight up, like a straight shot up, you know, to the moon. But I don't foresee this happening anytime soon. You know, straight shot up to like 10,000, 12,000, or 20,000. I still do expect a pullback. Okay, so now this is where things get interesting. Okay, so if Bitcoin is a financially traded asset that has human psychology sort of applied to it the same way other assets, other tradable assets do, well, what are those other assets and how do they look like, right? Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. This is where we start discussing things like gold and the Nikkei, which is the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Okay, so let's get to gold, right? Let's see how the history of gold can be maybe a good predictor of how maybe Bitcoin can follow, right? So here is gold. Okay, here is gold in the early 2000s, where it had almost like a seismic parabolic move like Bitcoin did, straight shot to the upside, and then eventually a big breakdown in prices and, you know, almost a capitulation like move down, right? Obviously gold has been around a lot longer. It's had a lot of history of movement up and down. I'm gonna turn this into months. Okay, so here we have gold right here, right? So you could see that gold sort of, had this big parabolic like move right here. And then once it came down, created a lower high right there, another little lower high, another little lower high. Again, these are months, right, guys? So these are all, each of these is a monthly candle and another lower high. And this is where it sort of like dropped off and capitulated, right? And then gold had a pretty decent move to the upside, sort of creating some higher highs as per these previous swings right here, right? Getting people all excited, and people are probably thinking, just like people are in Bitcoin, thinking that, hey, this is going to go to the previous all-time high. But what it really did was, it kind of moved on up, came down again, right? Which if we started to, look at gold as we do BTC, this area right here is, synonymous to BTC's 4K range that we broke through a month or two ago and then took off, all the way to 6K right here. And this is the topping off of 6K range, right? Not just 6,000. And then, we had a couple of months of just declining, looking like we're going to fall off a cliff, put in another higher low right here. So this is your 3.1K. This is probably going to be your 4K right here. And then you start sort of taking off, maybe put in another higher low right here. And then you just sort of keep on moving away. Okay, gold obviously has more time to, expand on its prices over time, and it could potentially reach back here. Bitcoin as a market moves a little bit faster. So we don't have to wait, months or years for something like that to happen. Okay, now let's look at the Nikkei, right? So point is, guys, I just wanted to show you that gold has actually already done its, big bubble, its burst, its capitulation right here, and even come out of that slump of that bear market by putting in this higher low, higher high, and then moved away from it. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Give me a thumbs up, guys. If you do like my content, I try to do as much as I can. I don't need to do this on a Thursday evening. I, just came back from work, a long day, but I figured that people want to know what's happening in the crypto markets, and I know you guys want to, talk about your positions or understand what's happening, what you may want to do, etc. So I figured I would take some time out of my day to do that, right? So please do give me a thumbs up, because, we don't really make a lot of money. You may think that, hey, why doesn't he just do this for free? I respect and applaud the people that do this for free, but honestly, I think my time is more valuable than most people, and so I don't really want to do this for free. If I'm providing my time is money, guys. And I hope the same for you guys, which is that if you think that what you bring to the table in your respective career and your field is valuable, then charge people accordingly, right? And so all I ask sometimes is, give us a tip right here. You can give me a bat tip like this, okay, on the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. You can just click here, send a tip. I do this for all the websites that I visit and the YouTube channels that I like. It's very simple. Brave browser, download it. It's awesome. And you can just quickly donate like this, click right there and then send a tip, okay? Or you can come join our Cryptosomniac Advantage program, where I spend a majority of my time, donating my time to my members, who I, provide a lot of analysis, trade setups, a lot of conversation and information, okay? All right, back to the analysis. Here's the Nikkei, the Tokyo Stock Exchange, okay? Parabolic move, similar to BTC in the 80s, okay? Big top off, bubble burst, right? This rounded off right here as a lower high. This rounded off right here as a lower high. And then it, sort of collapsed right here. Put in some lower highs, and then finally, this level right here broke through capitulation right here. This is right here analogous to your 3.1K. All right. And this right here, this level right here that you can see, is that 4.1K that we had in BTC. right? You can see how similar these bubbles form, burst, reform, and then, sort of come back, test its lows, and then take off again. Okay, this is not magic, guys. This is how financial markets work. This is human psychology and institutional players at work. Okay, this is why a lot of these charts look so eerily similar. Okay, it's not magic. This is how markets work. Okay, so what I'm trying to get with this is what you just saw in the gold chart, right? This being, that 3.1K low. This area right here topping off was 4,000, and then this right here was that big moonshot move back to 6,000 or so, and then eventually it's going to top off right here and then dump to previous lows, maybe retesting these previous lows that you see right here, maybe stopping out some people in this 3.1K area, and then sort of making its way back up in a grind over the next few months, maybe the next year, and then take off. All right. So now you know how there's been similarities in previous bubbles all across the world in different assets. The Tokyo Stock Exchange represents the stock market. Gold represents commodities. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, which is it's sort of like a fusion between how equities and commodities operate. Okay, so it's going to be fairly similar, right? So what you're really betting against right now, okay, is, do you think that Bitcoin is so special that it just doesn't follow human psychology, or it doesn't follow bubble popping and reforming structures? Well, I personally think it does. And I personally think that at some point, whether it's the 6K area, maybe the low 7K or low 8K, it's going to top off. Okay, and then eventually it's going to come down with a deep crashing blow. And then it's going to move sideways in this region right here, for, I don't know, maybe into, say, late 2020 or middle of 2020, right before the halving, and then start taking off again past 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, and beyond. Okay, this is how these markets function. All right, so now you get to see some perfect examples and similarities to other markets. All right, I hope that comparison was good for you, and please do rewatch it. Please let me know if I made any mistakes, but I vet my analysis quite a bit before I go through it and just sort of try to half-ass it. Okay, I've been doing this for a while, guys, and one thing I'll tell you is that I still constantly learn. Even if I make mistakes, I'm happy to correct myself, but more often than not, when I make some statements, try to listen to it, do your own due diligence, and then come back to me and let me know, like, if you agree or disagree. Don't just flippantly just say that, hey, that's bullshit or whatever. We provide our time and our experience, because there's certain things that I've come to understand about market psychology or how markets function and operate in an economical model, and I just hope to relay that information to you. That's all I hope to impart on everyone. Okay, I just want to make sure that you guys don't make the same mistakes that I did or that other retailers did, or still do. Okay, so this is why I sort of have this Cryptosomniac Advantage program, because I help people not make mistakes. That's probably the best thing that I can tell you about my community, is that if I don't provide you great trade setups, I will for sure make you stop you from making a mistake. That I can guarantee you. All right, and if you don't believe me, come join or ask anyone in this channel right now. Okay, all right, so back to the analysis. Here's another thing that I wanted to pull up. This was something that one of my members, CryptoVista, brought up. This was something that was put up about 23 to 25 days ago. Okay, so it's called the bump and run reversal bottom. It's pretty common. This happens in markets quite a bit. Unfortunately, I personally think that the person who drew this drew it at the wrong point. Okay, so your bar actually, I think this person drew that from here, sort of like this, you know, where there was like a flag right here, a flag right here, and I don't think this is the true bar. Okay, the real bar comes right here, because this is where the lead-in happens. Okay, so usually your lead-in phase, it starts from pre, you know, dump or capitulation. Okay, it doesn't stop in the it doesn't start in the middle of the fallout right here. Okay, so this is why I believe that, you know, whoever sort of put this up, or, you know, ran with it on crypto Twitter, whatever, got it wrong. Okay, or at least I personally think so. All right, so here's your true bar in my experience. All right, this is your bar right here. Okay, let me draw that out. So you see this right here. So here you have a touch right here to the top of the trend line, consolidation move right there, and then break on right through it, throw back to the trend line right there, and a big uphill run. Okay, so let's see where we are right now. All right, so this is sort of your, you know, consolidation move right here. All right, this is your bull flag pull right there. Here's the consolidation move in this little region, right? You consolidate, move back down, and then just rip on right through. And you test that level almost, I mean, not perfectly, but right there in that same region. As you can see, this is just what we had about, you know, 2 or 3 days ago. Okay, this little touch right here cements this throwback to the trend line, as you can see right there. And now we're moving on up. Okay, this is now the start of the uphill run. Okay, this is why I state that, you know, again, the uphill run doesn't mean that we have to stop off in this region right here. We could go all the way to, say, 8,000 or 8,400 and then reverse back down too. Okay, that's what I was trying to explain to you with the Nikkei and the gold. They look very similar to BTC in terms of their structure, in terms of their bubbles popping, this bottom being formed right here, big reversal to the top, but then eventually coming back down, you know, putting in a higher low or a retest of the previous lows, and then having a consolidation in this region and then moving on up. Okay, so if you believe that, you know, Bitcoin is sort of, you know, an exception to the norm of how Nikkei and gold have moved, then we may just start taking off to 20K, you know, starting tomorrow, right? I highly doubt it, because I personally believe that history does tend to rhyme. It doesn't have to actually, you know, exactly repeat itself, okay? But I think it will rhyme, and by that, I think at some point, whether it's, you know, high 6Ks or low 7Ks, it's gonna come down, okay? I'm fairly confident of that. Not saying, you know, I'm 100% sure, but seeing as, you know, these markets have shown that kind of structure over and over again, I would not be surprised, and neither should you. Okay, I got a lot of people watching right now, so again, guys, you know, please do give me a thumbs up if you do enjoy my content. I take the time out of my day to provide you guys with updates, provide you guys with analysis, and I hope you respect my time. You know, I hope you help grow my channel, our channel rather, and, you know, come join the Cryptosomnia community and see what we're all about. And if you have criticisms about the community or criticisms about me, I'm really happy to hear them. Okay, I promise you, all I want to do is grow and, you know, be the best that I can in this space. Okay, there's no trolling, no shilling in our community. It's just all healthy discussion of technicals, of how to invest and trade setups and education. All right. Okay. What's up, Bill? What's up, Max? Okay, John Clay says, if it comes back and bounces strong, do you think that it would that's the start? I think you mean, like, is that the start of the, you know, the next bull run? Yeah, more than likely, yes. If, okay, so here's my caveat to that, okay? So say, for example, we form, you know, this rounding like movement right here, go all the way to 8K or so, and we top off, right? And then we come down, and not only do we take out this low right here, but we do something, you know, even worse, which is that hang on, let me delete this a little bit. We do something like this, okay? So we go like this all the way to 6 or 8K and then come back down. And then we start taking out this 3,100 low and then go down even lower. This is where things get scary, okay? Once prices start taking out the previous lows like this by a significant margin and then they spend time under this area, this is not a good sign. This means that the structure has changed. There's been a big market shift, a momentum shift in this asset. And it could be, I don't know, maybe years of repair where the asset has to, go through multiple phases of fundamental development, technical development, and repair too. Okay. For now, I'm not trying to predict that the market is going to definitely go down to 1,000 or 2,000 or 500. But I've stated before that, if we did happen to break 3,100, the next significant level, honestly, would probably be anywhere between $1,200 and $1,900. Okay, because there's a pretty big gap in that area that I've talked about many times before, and it has yet to be filled by some early adopters and some early technicals. Okay, oh, this is not the right chart. Maybe it's this one right here. Let me show you guys what I mean. Okay, by gap being needing to be filled, and why 1,200 to 1,900 is the area. This is log. I'm going to turn it to log. So here's that area that has yet to be tested, right? So how I mentioned that when price sort of moves on up for a new high, it usually comes back down like it did right here to test the previous low or previous high as support. So turning resistance into support, same thing right here happened, right? Over here we did our best right here, but you could see now there's a big gap between this high and this low. Okay, so this is why I believe that this little gap right here between 12 and 1,300 to 1,900, this area right here needs to be filled. Okay, so there's a lot of sort of open air. If prices do fall from here, they'll probably land in this area because no one is really expecting any buyers to be holding up price here because there's really no real support, right? So this is probably an area where there might be some smart traders or some bots waiting to be able to generate some liquidity and find prices land right here and pick up all the leftovers when retailers sort of capitulate and sell. Okay, because this would be an area where no one would expect prices to go this low, and then you might have your smart money picking up everything right here. Okay, just something to keep in mind. All right, back to the analysis. Let's get to it. If you want to grow your channel, then why are the comments disabled? The comments aren't disabled. I don't think I disabled them. I mean, you're talking right now, right? Or do you mean like the YouTube video comments? Because anyway, I'll look into it. I don't think I've disabled the channel or the comments. I always have everyone commenting on my videos. I have no problem with that. Stellar was made so Jed McCaleb can pull out money as he couldn't do with XRP. That's a hilarious comment. I actually like Stellar in terms of its fundamentals, so I don't quite agree with that. But, guys, now that you brought up sort of the conversation about altcoins, let me go through my altcoin analysis, okay? Here's my altcoin analysis and what I have to say about what's happening in the crypto space, okay? Let's go through a couple of charts, all right? Let's go through ADA. Okay, this is one of the bigger altcoins, right? So here's ADA. Actually, you know what? Let me go through it right here. ADA, Cardano, Bitcoin. And we're going to look at this on the daily chart, all right? So here's the daily chart right here. I mentioned that, the alt space as a whole is looking really bleak. And most of the charts sort of look like this. they're breaking, significant fib levels, like it broke 618, it broke 786, and it's gonna head back to the previous, lows that it put in December, and potentially it may even go to the all-time, starts, the lows that it had pre-bull run in December 2017. Okay, like way down here. So that's why I stated that Cardano could potentially go between 600 and 850 Satoshis, okay, if it keeps breaking down the way it's already doing right now. All right, and this is actually the case with a lot of other charts. Here's Tron, okay, everybody loves Tron, and I don't think anyone's expecting this, but here's Tron too, right? So it's on this sort of ascending trend line, but you could see it's bouncing off of it right now. I personally don't think it's going to bounce too heavily off of it. I think it's probably going to hit these lows right here, which is right around 307 Satoshis. And then if it truly breaks down, again, guys, it's going to go back down to the pre 2017 bull market levels, almost to 16 Satoshis. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but between 300 and 16, guys, there's like no support. I don't know what to tell you. Like maybe there's some right here at like 200. Actually, yeah, there's some right there. I lied. I take that back. Okay, there's some support right here. Okay, in this area right here. But beyond that, I mean, it's just straight, just breaking down through all the way to 16 and 20 Satoshis. And I talked about this a little while back, where I mentioned that the crypto space as a whole needs to go through a big weeding out process, like a mass exodus of crypto projects either going bankrupt or going back to zero, where people just fucking hate altcoins, right? They don't want to ever touch them. They have all these shit bags that they have stored on their ledgers and their hot wallets or cold wallets or whatever. That's where you're going to start seeing that big capitulation phase, or maybe even the retest of the previous lows of Bitcoin that I explained, right? Because people are eventually going to realize like, oh, well, shit, maybe all these shit coins were really shit coins, and now I'm stuck with these bags, and I can't even sell them because no one wants to buy them, right? And that realization might come much, much later, because eventually, people don't like to sell at these levels or these levels right here, because human psychology, again, is very greed filled, right? People always want to gain as much as possible. They don't want to take consistent profits on the way up. They want to go for the moonshots of 50% or 100%, 10x gains, because that's what you saw in the 2017 bull market days. And so you're addicted, like a gambler is addicted to maybe seeing some big wins in his winning days. But unfortunately, this is a different market, and it takes a lot more patience. And now you're really battling with the best of the best. The traders who are coming from Wall Street, from China, bots and algos, right? So these people can't win if you're winning too. When the retailers lose, that's when the smart money wins. So for them to win, you as the average retailer must lose. So that's why in our community, I explain, what you must employ as skills to be able to take consistent profits in the market and get out, before you get too greedy. Okay. Anyway, going back to the discussion of alts, TRX, you could see it looks like a brutal chart. Here is some XRP. Okay, XRP, same thing. I had been mentioning to people in our community, XRP needs to be a sell on any big green candle that you see. So I mentioned that this was your sell point. I mentioned this was your sell point. I mentioned this was your sell point beginning of April. And just a couple weeks ago, I mentioned back here, this was your sell point when we had a bit of a couple of green candles right there. Okay. But now, I mean, if you're holding on to XRP, you're at least, in terms of Satoshi value, you're kind of fucked. More than likely prices are going to go down to this 4,200 Satoshi level, and then maybe down to about 1,400 or 1,500 Satoshis. Okay. Now, you're probably saying that, okay, well, it doesn't matter because I personally think that they're still retaining their US dollar value because BTC is going up. But I want you to think about what's going to happen when BTC makes that top that we were talking about, right? So when BTC makes that top over here somewhere, okay, this looks, okay, there we go. When BTC makes this top right here, and the Satoshi values for the alts have already gone down, and then BTC US dollar comes down, what do you think is going to happen to those alts that are already at all-time lows in their Satoshi level? They're going to lose dollar value heavily and fast, okay? And not only that, they're going to lose the Satoshi value with it. So it's going to be two ways you get screwed. You lose Satoshi value and you lose dollar value. Okay, that's why I'm saying that please do be careful trading alts or heavily investing in them. Do your own due diligence, do your research. There are certain alts that I'm invested in too, and even though I might be negative, I'm not so deep into these alts that it's gonna break the bank if I, am in some negative losses for a couple months. Okay, and these are some of the best projects. I'm not investing in a coin that's ranked like 200 with like a $5 million market cap. I'm always trying to buy projects that have mainstream attention, that have a use case, that don't have too many people who are using it as just a lottery ticket. All right, I hope that makes sense. How is ETH and Dash looking? All right, Darren, let me check that out for you. Ethereum is right here. I'm gonna pull it up right here. I've gone through ETH quite a bit, but I'm gonna go through it for you guys because I provide these updates in my Advantage program quite a bit. So here's the thing with the Ethereum, right? This is something I mentioned earlier, which is that alts for the most part are gonna get destroyed, but Ethereum, Litecoin, and BCH are sitting at very critical levels, almost breakout levels, where they're really just waiting for Bitcoin to just breathe just a little bit, and then these just want to pop off. But unfortunately, right now, all the smart traders, the smart money has poured into Bitcoin because Bitcoin has been moving really nicely, and it's forced people to put their assets into Bitcoin because Bitcoin is moving nicely. So you could see how it's like a cyclical pattern of, well, Bitcoin is moving nice, so I'm going to put money into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes up, and then more people put money into Bitcoin and pull out money from the alts to put into Bitcoin. So it's a cycle of destruction of alts, and then it's perpetuating Bitcoin's prices to go higher and higher. It's a great cycle for Bitcoin, but it sucks for alts, right? So trading alts right now is kind of the worst. So once Bitcoin starts breathing, I think the first few that are going to take off are Ethereum, which is right here. One thing that I was really happy about Ether was it finally broke out of this big ascending triangle right here, and it came back to retest that same area as support, and sort of to move away from it. Number two, it broke out of this descending trend line that was holding price down since the beginning of April. Okay, this right here. So I'm really happy in both ways. Ethereum sort of moved nicely on up, and my targets for Ether in the near term are 193 right there. 266 is my other target, and then about 395 or 400. Okay, just something to keep in mind. All right, let's take a look at Litecoin. Something similar on Litecoin as well. I could choke LTC's lack of movement. Yeah, man, LTC sucks right now, but again, same thing, just like Ethereum. It broke out of this sort of falling wedge, descending parallel channel. It hit the middle of this channel, and now it's sort of trying to move on up by bouncing off the channel again. Okay, I think over the next day or two it might touch the bottom of this channel, maybe around 71.5, 72, and then bounce off of it. Okay, The volume profile shows, I think there's a decent amount of resistance at 82 or 84. Actually, basically this entire region right here is a decent amount of resistance for Litecoin. So it has to sort of grind through this area slowly, okay? But once it starts, moving through these levels right here, once it breaks past, say, 84, I mean, it's just open air all the way till 100, okay? And then beyond that, I mean, it's almost beautiful on the way up. I think I'd say 155. I forget exactly where my target was beyond that. 110 is the next one, but I forget where the rest of the targets are. I think it's 155 if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, once LTC breaks past this area, this choppiness right here, I think it can hit 100 fairly easily. All right. Again, guys, none of this is investment advice, so please don't try to trade off of it. I provide setups in my community based on what I do, and if people want to follow, they follow. Okay. I have my own, mistakes and my losers, but like I said, you just have to make sure that your winners are bigger than your losers, and your losers are far and few. It's not that hard. You don't need to go for moonshots every time. I had read that if you had started off with like $1,000, starting today, and you traded every single day, and you went for 1% every day for 2 or 3 years, you could make somewhere close to 12 million, if I'm not mistaken. I had done the math before, but you can look it up. Compounding growth and consistent gains of trading will pay off in the long run. Okay, you don't need to go for those moonshots. All right. How is everyone doing in the group chat and the channel? So anyway, BCH is looking, sort of similar like LTC and Ethereum. It really wants to sort of break out of this ascending, triangle right here. And if it does, I would say the next target will become 333, and then beyond that, 391. Okay. As you can see, a decent amount of resistance right here around the 290s. Hopefully once it grinds up out of that, it'll just break on up right through. Okay. And again, this is a big gap that BCH needs to cover, right? Between 276 and all the way to about 400, let's just say, 390 or so. Okay. It has yet to be filled in my opinion. So at some point that will get filled, and that's why I'm hoping that this thing pops on back up. And we actually do, full disclosure, we have trades open in Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Bcash. All right. Zcash, I don't have a trade open in, but I will check it out for you. And so here's Zcash. Okay, wow, it's falling off a cliff. Yeah, so not surprised, like most alts, it is getting destroyed. And this is, it looks like Zcash has already broken past its previous lows. It's just really just open air below. So this kind of looks like a very scary chart to me. I wouldn't really touch this. But, I know a lot of people love Zcash because it has a lot of great, privacy features. So, if you want to invest it for the long term, that's your call. But this is not a chart that makes me look, makes me happy to trade. Okay. All right. What else? This is the last thing that I'll go through. This is the total market cap of crypto minus BTC. So we'll go through this right now real quick. I'd mentioned that, crypto market cap was on this nice ascending trend line right here, and then this descending trend line sort of created a symmetrical triangle. But once it sort of, hit this apex right here, I knew for the most part it's going to be headed down, and where it's going to head down is into this region right here. Okay, I personally think that the market cap needs to dump about $8 to $10 billion over the next, week or two, back to this $60 to $62 billion area. Okay, and this might actually be the time where BTC sort of tops off. This, dumps fairly easily down here because people get scared. They want to pull into Tether or Fiat or, maybe even jump into BTC, but BTC is going to keep dumping, and alt market cap will suffer, and it'll then move into this area right here. Okay, so this might be one of the scenarios that plays out, and if it does bounce, it'll also bounce off potentially this, you know, rising trend line right here, which touches from this bottom in December, this touch in February, and, you know, potentially now in May. Okay, in the next week or two of May. So just something to keep in mind. All right. I think that's pretty much all I have, folks. I'm gonna see if I can do some Elliott wave counts for you guys, because I know there was someone who was asking me about how I go about doing the Elliott wave count. So I'm gonna delete this for now. Okay, I'm just gonna get rid of this. So here's your, you know, your Elliott wave structure that I'm about to draw. Okay, so at first, you know, once this bottom was put in, this was more than likely wave 1. This is the bottom put in for wave 2. And now here's the interesting thing, is where either this is wave 3, wave 4, and finishing wave 5, okay, or this is 1, 2, 3 is up here in this 6,000 region. 4 might correct down here to, I don't know, somewhere in like the high 5,000s, and then 5 might take us all the way for that next big move towards, you know, 7,000 or maybe 8,000. Okay, and then after that, you usually have a fairly, you know, decent sized ABC corrective wave. This could go all the way down here, A, B, and then C could dump off, you know, way down here to this low right here, which was the 4,000 resistance level that we once had, that we had this big candle spike through. Okay, and so this sort of moves along with my theory that I just showed you about gold and the Tokyo Stock Exchange Nikkei, right? You can see how that makes sense, okay, if we were to draw it like that. All right. But aside from that, you know, that's all I have, folks. I hope you enjoyed my analysis. Please do come join our CryptoSomniac community. I went through BAR. I went through the different altcoins that look very brutal right now. I explained how the Elliott wave count works. I explained how Nikkei and gold can compare to what BTC is going through right now. I showed you my long-term chart, and if, you know, prices top off at, say, 7,000 or 8,000, they will more than likely come crashing down to maybe, you know, 4,000s or even lower potentially, like the Nikkei did, right? So a lot of things that we discussed, and I hope you enjoy this analysis. I hope this was a fairly objective view. I'm not here to, you know, pump rainbows up your ass. It really doesn't matter to me, and I'm also not here to, you know, sort of evoke fear from you. I'm just trying to give you the best perspective that I can from someone who's done this for a little while. Okay, and I hope you know, take it with either a grain of salt or you learn something from it. But please do give me a thumbs up, you know, if you do enjoy my content, if you know, like what I'm providing in terms of knowledge and experience. All right, that's all I have, folks. Take care, good night, and come join CryptoSomniacs. All right, cheers.